Life changes on a daily basis. Every minute, every hour, still we try to save it. But I gotta keep moving and making. Happy cause Lord knows life is crazy.
Welcome everybody to TruExact Show. I am here with Eric and Brian, and our special guest, a friend of mine, friend of the show, friend of the network. You've seen him on Mark's side of the ring a couple of times with Miguel and Nick. He actually was the first interview I did almost a year and a half ago at this point, but we got him on again. We kept in touch. We met in 2016 at Team Backpack. Country star. I'm calling you a star. I've seen your I've seen your monthly plays on Spotify, and I got a lot of catching up to do.
Perception's reality, man. Perception is reality.
Let me just say that. So I'll say not to hype you up too much because I don't want you to blush. Country musician, PJ North. How you doing, man?
Man, I appreciate y'all having me on. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for having me back.
No, absolutely. Like I said, we've kept in touch. We've been friends 5 years now going on. So still waiting to get out to Nashville and see you. But
you got to come through, man. You got to come.
I know. See you live, and you can smash the guitar over my head.
Yeah, let's do it, baby. Let's go.
Love that.
It's my two loves, wrestling and country. Wrestling and music in general, man. That's it. I'm in.
So before we get into your new releases, because last time you were on, you had just released B-Sides, I believe.
Yeah.
Which I love the song. It's one of my favorites.
Thanks, man.
So now you've released a couple songs. Beers We Haven't Drank, I believe Saturdays or For the Boys.
Yeah, man. We did a ton of stuff since B-Sides, man. The guys, it's been crazy. B-Sides was the first one I linked up with the two guys that produce my stuff now, which is Michael Meckling and Frank Leger, who are two of my best friends in town as well. So it's kind of worked out for that perspective. We started with B-Sides, and we just kind of had this idea, as I mentioned last time, with Frank, and me and Frank wrote that. And then that kind of ballooned from there, man. We wrote Middle of a Heartbreak after that with a buddy of mine, Ryan Robinette. And we just kind of kept rolling, and we got this idea of let's do a bunch of songs at one time and then release them as singles. So we started with a project called You Wouldn't Get It, which was really cool. I got to co-write with some people that I wouldn't normally get to write with. And we released a song called Lights On, and then Afraid of the Dark, which just hit 100,000 streams, which doesn't seem like a lot, man, when you look at like BTS, who had 220 million the first weekend. But, we can't all be Korean boy bands. So
you know what? It seems like a lot when I have 12 in a month. Don't worry about it, man.
But yeah, man. So it's crazy. So we did You Wouldn't Get It. And that kind of jumped off for us because at that point I got a new band. My guys they were all spread out. I got my best friends in Boston who played guitar with me. My drummer's in Ohio. The other guitar players in Ohio as well. So it's just we were all a little bit spread out. So I got a bunch of Nashville guys who've become super close friends of mine as well. And we started to kind of play at the end of 2019, doing a lot of shows and things. And so COVID hit, of course, and we released You Wouldn't Get It, and things got a little weird. But at that time, Michael and Frank's projects got canceled that they were about to go tour on. So for us, Frank was just like, hey, man, let's get in a room and do an EP. And I was like, I'm in. I got nothing going on. I moved all my meetings around. I work for a living and, just to kind of make the dream happen. And so as weird as it was for us, we kind of took advantage of it. So 2020, man, we released basically 10 songs throughout the year. And then earlier this year, I kind of completed the project that we started in 2020 called Victory Laps, which had a bunch of stuff. So I had Beers We Haven't Drank, Saturdays Are for the Boys, Turn It Up Some. So a lot of stuff, man. We just kind of stayed busy as humanly possible to just kind of get it up. And that's where I think the streaming thing comes in for us is a really big deal because we focus so much on trying to get numbers, but at the same time, sometimes people focus on the inauthentic ways of doing it. We just try to be as authentic as possible, man. And we've got this thing now that we call pop punk country. And it's like everything I grew up on hip hop and I grew up on pop punk, but I love country music and all this stuff. And so Nashville is a weird place like that, this conglomerate of human beings in here. And so it's cool to be able to do that and really focus in and zero in on our sound of what I do and what I love. So it's crazy, man. Yeah. So the releases have been a long time since we started this. Yeah, it's when I guess B-Sides was the first one. That's crazy to think how long ago that was, man.
I looked a lot younger too in the visual. I'm aging.
We all did. 2020 aged a lot of people.
I consumed a lot of alcohol.
I'm telling you.
Hey, but like I have to say, when I texted you,
he's ready already. Someone cracked that cold one for him. Let's go, boys.
I'm getting ready for the B-side of 20.
What?
It's a song of his. It's a little joke.
All right, gotcha. So I have to say, I texted you probably in July when you were releasing stuff of last year. And
Yeah.
you were like, I go, no more albums. And you go, no, we're doing singles.
Yeah.
And then at that time I was working on a CD where I had 10 songs to release. And I remember saying, that's so smart. And that's why Brian and I now, we kind of went your route, like single after single after single. Because let's be honest, we're not on your level yet. No one's anticipating our fucking album.
Yeah,
So,
no
like,
one's anticipating mine, and I tell them
Right.
about it.
Right.
My
So,
mom
like,
doesn't even know.
so, like,
She's
why
like, "Oh,
are,
you dropped the record?"
why are we wasting time on an album when, like,
Yeah,
you
man.
kind of need one song to pop nowadays, you know?
Yeah, so
kind of a
it's
good
weird.
album.
To put it in perspective as we do this, right? So when we went into You Wouldn't Get It, is really what I told Frank and Michael was that, look, man, I'm this big picture guy. I'm a visualization perspective, the creative space side. So for me, like, if I don't have an end goal, which is an album, in my opinion, right? Like, Jay-Z didn't go into writing Big Pimpin' and not think that he wasn't going to drop, you know, Life and Times Volume 3, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, at that point, he wasn't thinking, like, he knew, hey, I've got to do an album. Let's drop a single. And so you got to think of it, like, I still think of it that way. So we did Victory Laps last year. When we went in, we knew at that point in 2020, right? It's basically April at that time. And we were like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I have this idea of a concept. Let's call it an album at the end of it, but let's record everything at once and then just drop singles to basically just build your algorithm at that point for
Right.
Spotify and kind of go from there. And so that's really what we did. The focus was really on that. So that's kind of my thought process behind it. Cause like, I still look at the album as a cool concept. Like, I'm all about the cover art. I'm all about I'm all about that, how you built this thing and what that was at that time of your life. And so that's the way I look at it right now. I mean, this project that we've worked on, and we've got a new song coming out we'll talk about, but that's the same concept. We've got a bunch of songs that we wrote after we released. So we started with Turn It Up Some, but at that point we had already had all my songs. So for a couple months we focused on other people. We focused on other songwriters, a buddy of mine, Chris Rudiger, Ryan, all these folks that we were trying to get cuts with. And so at that point we kind of stopped writing for me. And then again, you start to swoop back up. We're like, hey, man, we've got all these songs, and now I know what we're doing release-wise. Let's plan for 2021. What are we going to do, and how do we come back at it? And so, again, I still look at it as like an album, but for me and for most of Nashville, it's just most of this generation, people that listen to music, it's so – I mean, even myself, like I'm like, sometimes I don't like full bands albums, but I still want to hear them. Like I want them to – if I love them, I want to hear the full album. You know what I mean? So – I'm stuck between that rock and a hard place, but that's kind of how I cope with it, is that I have a project in mind. It is a CD in my mind, but only to me until the end.
I feel like you and Brian like have the same thought process, like legit in that concept, Brian, go on.
Yeah, no, because the thing is, like, think about when a new album comes out on Spotify, right? Like on the new release Friday or whatever, like it doesn't even matter if it's someone that I like. Like I'll go into it, I'll click on the playlist, and then you hit the little preview. And you only get like 15 seconds. And like, I'll just go, yes, no, no. All right, fuck this album. I'm not even. And now that artist gets no streams. You lost me. I've listened to a maximum of like 40 seconds of an entire, like, let's say it's 16 tracks, roughly an hour worth of or half hour, 40 minutes worth of music. I listen to 40 seconds of it and I'm like, fuck it. You know, so it's almost like that approach. Like if you want to still build something in the back like that, it is a good plan, you know. But like to keep just pumping it out every week. Oh, here's another song. Here's another song. And then like Scott has said, like if one of them catches, then you're good. You know, then people are going to start coming back more and more for that stuff. I want to ask you some questions about like the production side, because I do our like vocal mixing and like arrangement and everything like that. Do you do a lot of your own like mixing, editing, stuff like that? Or
I don't do any of it. So I'll tell you a quick funny story. So when I was a senior in college, my senior thesis project was a mixtape. I did one. I was 22 years old at that point, and I'll never forget this. Posner had come out with his deal, like Flight School or whatever that whole deal was, like him and Wiz and Big Sean and all those guys had the Backpack Dat Piff era, and like that was the thing. And I was like, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do this at my house. I'm going to learn this. And I had been around vocal recording at that point for a few years. I'd spent younger, but I didn't really but I had a studio in my basement. I had a vocal booth, the whole deal. And so for me, Like, I was like, I'm going to figure this out. But in my mind, when I recorded the vocal, I was so bad at it, I didn't even know how to comp, right? So I would put in a vocal. I'm like, man, that volume, like, it's real terrible. So I'm going to delete that and start over. Or I like, oh, that track's okay. Let me create another track. And like, so for me, like, I just didn't get a lot of it. But I also didn't really care as much about it. I only cared about the end product when I would do some of the editing. Like, you know, you do the pitch shift and you would do the modulation, all of those things, like, I was cool with. But I didn't really understand it. Then when I started recording at a studio more often, the engineer that I worked with did all of that as we were recording, which I thought was weird to me, because the only time I really interacted and understood what mixing and mastering were was by the Jay-Z documentary or the Drake documentary that was on MTV. They were like, he like brought the master to his hotel, right? And they're like sitting behind him and they're like, we got to have this in like an hour, right? He's like sitting there listening. So for me, like, I didn't understand the concept of that whole thing. When I moved to town, all of that perception changed. Like, that whole thing went out the window of how this whole thing worked. And so for me, Michael Meckling, who again is one of my closest friends now, he co-produces with Frank, and then he does all the mixing. So Frank plays all the instruments and Michael does all the mixing, and then we have a mastering. We use Sterling Sound in New York for a lot of the stuff that we used to do. And then just this new project, we've worked with Dan Bacigalupi here in town, which is an exceptional mastering guy. And so Michael's main business for a living is a mixing engineer. He works front of house on tours. He's a sound engineer for Reed Shippen. So he does basically every major record that comes into Nashville. His company that he works for does that, and it's two guys, it's him and Reed. And so he's the best of the best at that. He's got a lot of old school stuff that he likes to do, compressors and running through analog machines and all of these things that he likes to do, which is really cool. So I kind of let him do that. It's his way of being creative in the space. And Frank the same way. Frank mixes all of the remixes we do. So none of that stuff is for me. We'll sit through, they'll do a basic mix, and then we'll sit through a mix note via, you know, there's a streaming system where you can do that through like Logic or Pro Tools, and you just kind of listen down through, which is pretty cool. So we go through and I mix note everything with them. But yeah, it's not my strong suit. Long story short, I know that was a long story short, but I'm the energy behind it, and I kind of try to keep those guys hype about it, and hopefully, you know, they're as excited about the project as I am, which I think is why we work so well together. So it's a pretty cool experience to get to learn that, because before, like I said, I just didn't know anything, man. I didn't get it at all. I'm like, you know, putting BGVs, and I'm like, oh, we'll just drop this 50%. That's like how it's supposed to work. No, man, there's a whole, you know, I mean, sure, you know, right, going through it. So it's a pretty cool thing to go through, but Michael and Frank handle all that. So
hey, you know, I do understand that mindset of it, because like me and Scott used to be that way, where like we would have the guy who used to mix our stuff, you know, he would do it, he would take care of all of it. We were really not involved in that process whatsoever. But then as you listen to music more, especially like if you put it on really good headphones and you can hear everything that's going on,
it's a game changer.
Yeah, the stuff that kind of gets left out when you're just listening on speakers or in the car or something like that. But when you're really listening to it and you hear all the things that are happening in the background, the vocal effects on the voice, the way the voice hits, the way it's compressed, the way it's equalized, everything about it, you really see. Because if you've ever taken like a raw vocal and then turned it into something that's like a beautiful project, you're like, wow, it sounded like this to start.
Right.
Where you fucking brought it to. Like, that's why I've said to Scott before, I'm like, you don't understand how many of these guys, like the Travis Scotts, A$AP Rockies, like they're manufactured. They don't sound
man.
like that. Drake does not sound like how Drake sounds.
Right.
The way his vocals are mixed, he found the formula for him that works. Because you'll find a lot of these guys, like if you find like mixing sessions on YouTube, anything, like I watch those from time to time just to see what like all professionals do. You'll see all the effects and all the different plugins they put all over these guys.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And that's the funny thing, you know, what's that Jay-Z line in that new song? Sound like 40 did the mix. Yeah. You know, it's like, that's a thing. It's to me, again, man, I didn't understand that back in the day. I had a girl tell me way back when, and she was like, you should use inflection in your voice. And I didn't understand, you know, I was a rapper. I was like, my only thing was like to get the punchline across at the time. Right? I didn't care about anything except the punchline. That was all that mattered. So for me to learn that and then to bring that into singing as well, which has been a, a, really cool thing. But yeah, you know, what I did last year was kind of fun too. We did this thing on TikTok of like here's what we started with, right? And then when it would get to the chorus, I'd basically drop in the full production from where we started with just a rough piano and how we did the work tape or how we did the rough demo thing, basically. And it's crazy to think about that, man, because I'll hear a rough mix right now that I have of all the project that we've done, and I'm like, so the new song we have, I first got the master back, we first did the mix notes, and I was like, damn, this shit right here. Man, this shit right here. It was like, this is night and day. You just like get reinvigorated about it because it is such a piece of art, which is crazy to me because, like I said, I just didn't understand that before I moved here. I really didn't get the concept, and so it's cool to have somebody who's as close to it as Michael and Frank.
I could safely say I still don't understand the concept, so you're not alone. Brian does love the mix.
The thing you were saying about inflection, though, if you listen, I've said this to Scott too, about if you listen to when Eminem raps, every single word is a different inflection, like literally every single word. But to me, all right, so like somebody might listen to that, like let's just say you're an artist, you're not into the production side of it. Like you listen to it and you're like, wow, how did he do that with his voice? But then when I listen to it, I'm like, how the fuck did his engineer do this with his?
How did they get that part in?
Bro, listen, if I'm ever blessed enough to be in a fucking studio session with Eminem one day, and he does that off the fly, he's the greatest absolute rapper that ever existed. That will.
But how could they do that though? Like if I'm monotone, they just shoot it up.
Then we can do all types of crazy shit with it.
What they'll do with him is, let's say he wants to do 5 different tones. So he'll rap the same verse, 5 different tones. And then what the engineer will do is he'll go in and he'll cut and snip every single word to make it fucking work. That's why these guys take so long on a fucking album.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Dre's must be ridiculous. His detox, Jesus Christ.
Well, Eric, I do want to pass it to the person who's been to all 50 states, Eric here.
No big idea. No, whatever.
So I know you've been to Nashville and you've seen the aura around there. So like, if you have any country questions or
Well, I was gonna say it's not that I hated country. I just never seeked it out. I never cared. And I moved out to Portland, Oregon in 2015. And my second stop went to DC. And then stayed in Nashville for 2 days. And that's a fun town. It's just a fun town.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. I was listening to music all day. I'm a big fan. And I would love to live there. If you guys were closer to the beach, I would have loved to live there. But that's only holding me back. But it's such a cool town.
It's the best decision I ever made, man. Nashville is, especially now, it's crazy. And this is so funny. When I moved here, so I knew that there were a few music cities basically in America at the time when I was looking at colleges and and after college when I was working. Basically, it was between New York and LA for me. And Nashville was at that time in 2010, it was like on the come up, but like it was in a weird place in music. Like their country music was just beginning to spread out into these other genres of what they do now and what it is. And so at the time I didn't really understand, but had someone told me that Belmont was like a thing in Nashville, like I knew him as a basketball school from the NCAA tournament, but I didn't know like what the deal was. Had someone told me that in 2006, I probably would have investigated that a little bit closer because it's such a great city. But man, the things we do now, but the change in just the 5 years that I've lived here has been crazy, dude. It's like, I imagine this, and this is terrible to say, but like, I imagine this is what New York was like in the like 20s and 30s when like, everybody was like being pushed out or the 40s, whatever that, I don't know in the time, but I'm assuming that this is what happened in the 20s. But like in that time period of whatever people are moving in, there's apartments being put up and there's no land, there's nothing else. It's only stuff being put up. And that's kind of how Nashville is right now, is it's vertical regimes and it's townhomes, right? Like everybody's like, I watch enough SVU. It's like, oh, they live in a brownstone and whatever, right? It's like all of those everywhere now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think because everyone's like, Nashville's a country town, right? It's like, I don't know if y'all have been here lately because it's not. I mean, the country music is the hotbed of this, but it's music in general, man. Every great pop punk act has moved to Nashville, man. Paul DiGiovanni's like one of the top producers in town, and he was in Boys Like Girls, and like he's like the number one guy right, in my mind right now that I think about, and I'm like, they didn't move to New York, they didn't move to LA, they moved to Nashville and like reinvented the scene. And there's all these bands, the band Camino, Coin, they're all based here. There's people that I play with. That I'm good friends with. Phil Street, man, you guys would love them. They're like this like pop hip hop group. they do all this type of like new age stuff, which is cool. And there's just like a lot of that, and Belmont's to thank for that, and Vanderbilt. And so Nashville is to me, just like I said, just like one of my favorite things that I've ever got to experience is living here. It's the best, in my opinion. I love downtown.
Now,
It's fun. I was gonna say like the difference between Nashville, because I used to travel all the time for work too. So I would spend a couple days in Nashville, then a couple days I would drive to Memphis, a couple days in Memphis, and it's just wild. It's a 3-hour drive, three and a half hour drive. The vibe of like the main streets, that strip, it's just so different. Like they're both great. Like I don't smoke cigarettes at all, but when I was on Beale Street, I bought a pack of cigarettes for my buddy, and we're inside just listening to these dudes play the blues, and I'm just like just watching them dance. I was like, this is crazy. And then Nashville, it's like that, but like country as well. Like it was such a like Nashville's a welcoming, wonderful vibe. Like they don't care. Like, oh, I only like rap. I'm a rapper. They're like, come on in, and like,
dude. You know, Jelly Roll's having a reinvert. You know, Jelly Roll right now is on the come up, man. Him and Struggle Jennings and all those guys are right now having a revamp. Not that their career ever really tailed off. They've been doing the same thing, but like they're on a different level now. Yeah. You know, you think about that, and it's definitely crazy, man. Like I said, Nashville is welcoming in that sense, man. As I've, like I said, met some of my hopefully lifelong friends here that I would never have had an opportunity.
Now, did you meet your wife there, or did you meet her before moving?
Yeah, so she actually lived here already. She we met racing, so we both drag race, and so we met in Kentucky, about an hour north of here, a track that we race at, and so she had already lived here. We were doing a long distance thing for like 6 months. And then I was already, my plan was basically at that point, I was like, if I don't do something, I've been focused on music. I was starting to make a little headway. Had a fan base. I was able to get paid to do shows and things like that at the time. And, for me, basically, I was like, well, if Sam Hunt's doing it, let's just do it. That's basically what it was. I looked at my guitar player and I told him, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to just do it. So we wrote a bunch of music and I moved down here, and it was a complete shell shock. But she already lived here, so it was great, man. We moved in together. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Murfreesboro, which is crazy. And we lived there for like 6 months. She had already lived there for a while. So then we built a house. We lived like 20 minutes east of the city, basically. So it's not too bad for us to get around. But yeah, it's crazy kind of how that works. And she never really, she lived when she grew up another 20 minutes east of us. So she grew up even further out. So like her Nashville experience was much different than like people, who grew up and went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I really want to go out there one day. I will make it. One day
you gotta do it, dude. It's lit. You'd love it. It's the crazy thing is, I'll tell you this is the weirdest thing right now, right? So COVID shut everything down, of course, like it did in every major city, man. But this entire city is built on performers on Broadway. Like the entire town economical system from 8th to 1st is built on performers. That's what it is. And so people just up and left, man. They couldn't make it, right? They had to go home. They had to leave. They did whatever. It wasn't working out, which was crazy. So for me, like, I was like, man, this is so weird. But now it was wide open before it's even more wide open, man. It's like, it's almost like they doubled in size in the last, it's unbelievable. We were looking at TikTok and that whole Morgan Wallen thing. We went to Kid Rock's last week. And there's like 5,000 people in the bar, which has got to be capacity. It's absolutely nuts. Yeah. And then there's another 1,000 people standing in line waiting to get in.
Jeez.
It's just, it's bonkers.
Right now.
Bonkers. Yeah.
I can imagine standing.
That bar is fun. I love that. But it's just like every 10 feet's a new. That's what's cool. You're just walking up and down the street. You don't even have to go in. It's like a new band, a new song. Like, it's such a cool – there's not many – I'd say it's the only city. It's one of the most unique cities. Every city's unique in their own way, but, like, as far as music, it's crazy.
I think I know the answer, but what is harder to write? A rap song? Like, when's the last time you wrote, like, a full rap song? Like, how long ago? And,
man,
what's the difference between writing, like, the country song and the rap song?
I'll tell you – so this is a point that we've had – it's kind of a point of contention in town of, like, what is country and what isn't. In hip-hop, for me growing up, again, I loved the hits, but I loved, like, New Jack Swing, that style of it, mixed with, like, this, like, Wale, Jay-Z, over-the-top, I'm smarter than you lyrics, right? Like, you're like, oh, damn, he said some – you know what I mean? Like, that was my thing. And so for me, that's what I always wanted to do as a hip hop writer. I was like, yo, I'm not really going to say anything on these choruses. I'm going to have a good time because I'm a good time Charlie. I like to, you know, whatever. And so for me, like, it was never really about storytelling in hip hop as much as it was about just like, I am smarter than all of these people and I want them to know it because my vernacular is deeper, my vocabulary is better, all of these things. That was always my goal. And I also felt like it had to be entertaining. So the difference between that and the music that I write now is that country music really is like embedded in this, like, it's got to be about trucks and beer, and it doesn't have to be about that. Country music is really what it is storytelling music better than Americana. Americana is storytelling music that's not popular in the sense of like, it just doesn't, it makes you feel some type of way, but you're not like jamming a guitar to it. Country music makes you feel a certain type of way because there's a little bit more behind it. At least that's my opinion of it, right? That's not scientific, but so country music for me, the difference between writing them is really like in the music we write now is that I have to think of a kind of a point in time about what the song's about, which is cool because you hear that in songs like Closer is a perfect example of Chainsmokers. Does anybody know what that song is about? No one. Not, I mean, at least nobody I've met. I know it's about some girl who had a mattress in the back of her car. She's got my roommate's back in Boulder. That, like, no one really knows. But the point being is that it's about this very point in time that you somehow relate to because you see yourself in this visualization. And so I think that country music or the music that we write right now is that same thing, is that it's this point in time that you're trying to relate to, or that you can relate to because you see yourself in that, even if it's not the same exact moment, it's that same exact type of thing. I think that's the difference between what I used to write and how I write now. You know, the funny story about that is that when I moved here, I was like, man, I'm a great lyric guy. I'm a melody guy. That's my thing, right? And then I moved here and like we went to one of the first writers rounds I played, and the dude came out from behind the bar and he was just like exponentially better. And I just looked at my guitar player and I was like, we've made a huge mistake. This dude's way better than us. Like, this is a huge mistake. So for me, it was crazy because I just didn't get it. And so now I'm like the big picture idea guy. Like, I'm the title guy when I go into writes. They're always like, all right, what title do you have for us? Because that's always like my thing. And then I'll like visually put it out and then we write to that story side. So it's just much different, man. They're apples and oranges to a certain extent when it boils down to it.
No, it makes sense. I feel like, yeah, go on, bro.
No, you know what it is though with some things like that. I feel it's like damn, I don't have a good example for it. Like, have you ever come across someone who has just too much knowledge about one topic, and like if you were to ask them a simple question, you know, like, hey, can you tell me this? And it's like, well, you have to consider all of this and blah 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 blah, and they overdo it and they overthink it. So like coming up with like a song title, if someone is not overthinking and over processing something and they just go with what they feel in the moment, right, I feel like that works so much better than like, okay, what's the absolute perfect song that we could target at 14-year-old young girl get to the party on Wednesday nights with their friends at a sleepover. Yeah. Like, yo, what the fuck?
It's a whole that's right on it. I think that we go into it and we think of like, you know, for example, one of the titles we have that I wrote is About Me. And it's just, and I had this idea in my head as I was like, what if it's all lowercase and there's a period at the end, right? So all of these things that could come before About Me is infinite. The infinite things that could come before About Me. And so for me, that was like what I wanted to write. I was like, look, this is the idea. This is how I mentally see it. This is like visually what it would look like from a video stand, like all these things. And that's what it is, man. It's that feeling in the moment. Sometimes you get shitty. So I mean, I write shitty songs all the time, man. It just depends. You know, I don't have a hit record. I don't have a number one. So all the songs technically I write are shitty. Just depends on who you ask.
No, that's cool.
The majority of the time, everyone makes a bunch of shit. It's just that one. You finally
right. Bro, shit. My dad asked me to go through like the Beatles songs recently to do like a countdown, which I haven't done. But like, I actually went through all the Beatles songs that they ever made, and you realize they probably made more bad songs than good.
They probably, with the amount of songs they made, they probably tripled it. And the amount of shit that they
exactly. So that's like every artist, though. Like,
that's exactly it, man. I mean, how many times have you heard a bad, like, you know, you think about it. Like, I was listening through the Jay-Z catalog the other day, and we were on a long drive, and I was like, man, I just love all this. But I bet there's a lot of songs that didn't make the cut.
You're barking up the wrong tree.
Oh, I know you're not a Jay-Z guy.
Nah, but like I get what you're saying.
How can you wear a Yankee cap? How can you wear?
He's a
Come on, man. Jay-Z made the Yankee hat cool.
Not a real Yankee. No, he didn't. That's just not fucking true. Oh, God. Bothersome.
He did. He even said it. He made a Yankee cap more famous than a Yankee can.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone more upset than Gambino.
Did he freestyle that too? Really fucking go bar.
Yeah.
Didn't write that.
I was talking to a girl about that, like in college. I go, well, Jay-Z, you know, she's like, he's not good. I'm like, well, he doesn't write anything down. She goes, yeah, that's why he sucks.
Well,
I told Scott, and he goes, I like her, man.
That's like Joe Budden said. Remember, it was like the more people said they didn't write down lyrics, the more it sounded like they didn't.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't impress me. I'm sorry. Write to make it better. But this, whatever. Like,
that's so
just
funny.
not for me. Just
all right. That's not your cup of tea. I get it.
It's not my cup of tea.
That's
what
it.
it is. Hey, so, all right. What do you got coming up? I know you sent me the link. I will be pre-order. I don't pre-order things. No offense. I wait till it comes out. Then
I get it. I mean, you're just detrimental to my musical career and people seeing my stuff on charts, but it's fine. Don't worry about it again.
He's just still on the fence
Whatever
about it.
suits you, dog.
I don't even.
Scott hasn't made his mind up yet. He's
like, I don't know if I'm gonna buy this.
I don't pre-order Madden, no video games. I wait till things come out. I wait till things come out.
You know the crazy thing? I'll just tell you a quick story. The pre-order is so important in the business.
Now I have to do it.
No. And I don't mean it for you, but I never thought about that before.
Okay.
I never thought about that before because you couldn't pre-order CDs.
Okay.
And so, like, I'm old enough to know, like, man, I'd hit Best Buy every Tuesday to get the newest CDs. Like, that was my thing. I have hundreds and hundreds of CDs back home. So for me, a pre-order was not really a thing, right? And so it's crazy to me how crucial it is in this business that last year we saw artists in Nashville talk their followers into pre-saving a song enough that it went #1 in all genres by an indie artist. Unsigned, no pub deal, no backing, all her own followers managed to do that. And then 2 weeks later, turned it into a record deal. That's unheard of, man. That's crazy. That's some Soulja Boy shit. As weird as that is to say, that's some Soulja Boy shit. Like, managed to create something out of nothing with something as remedial as, hey, man, just pre-order, dog. Here's 99 cents. And it's crazy to me that it works that way. And so it's like, that's not really my thing either, but I get it. You know, my friends are like, you got to do it. I'm like, all right, cool. So the pre-save thing is cool because it's like, all right, pre-save Spotify, and then that day it shows up on your playlist and it shows Spotify, hey, people do listen to your music, which is, I guess, you know, we're a data-driven business now instead of an art business. But what do you do?
Yeah.
I will be buying it after the show now.
So I do have a brand new single, man. 6 comes out next Friday, June 11th. It's called Kinda My Thing. It's a duet I did with a buddy of mine, Dawson Edwards. I co-wrote it with Frank Leger, Tyler Anderson, and Dawson got in on it. It's really cool. I basically begged Frank to write with Dawson in 2020. I was like, dude, I'm a huge Dawson fan. I know you write with him. What's the chances? And Frank's always good about bringing me in when he feels like it's the right time. And we got together. We wrote Beers We Haven't Drank together. So me, Frank, and Dawson wrote that. And then we were at a writing with another kid, Rashad. I don't know if y'all know him, but he's a pretty popular artist out of Atlanta. Super good dude. And so we were writing for him, and after the write ended, I was like, Dawson, I don't know if you have any interest in this, man. I know you got your deal going on, and I don't know if you have to ask your people, but basically I'm trying to do this song. It's called Kinda My Thing. Here's the start of it. Tell me what you think. See if you'd be interested, and then we'll write a verse for you. And he got on board, man. And me and him are very alike in the fact that we both love racing. We both love a good time. We like a lot of the same artists and things like that in the country world and stuff like that. But we're also polar opposites in the fact that he's from Rome, Georgia. He grew up with a rooster as a pet. I did not. So he's a great dude, man. He's a good friend of mine now, which is really cool. And so I'm super pumped to have him on. And it's something I've wanted to do because I love to do features in hip hop. And so country music, I always thought would be way cool to have that. But instead of doing features, they just created duos. So now it's like, it's a really cool opportunity to have people featured on it. And so, yeah, Kinda My Thing, featuring Dawson Edwards, comes out June 11th. We're super excited about it. I got a ton of content that we shot for it. We got rowdy and drunk on a Monday afternoon, shooting Fireball and Natty Lights. So it's
oh my God, that is
nice. That's a
Yeah, dude. It's wild, man.
No,
It's wild. We did the Stone Colds, man. We were doing we had to do that a couple times, right? Because you got to get a couple good takes of it. We were shotgunning beers. We were shooting fireball. Next thing I know, it's like middle afternoon. I'm like, man, I got to go home. I think I'm drunk. I think I'm drunk. It's wild.
That's idea for our next video.
what,
Perfect.
Fireball and Natty Ice?
Yes.
No, dressing up as Stone Cold Steve Austin and rap the whole time.
But we will, PJ, we have discussed it. We will eventually collab. We have
We've got to do it, man.
I know,
think it's
I
so
just
cool.
don't know how to like find the beat with like the rhythm of you singing. I'm not good at stuff like
We'll
that.
figure that out. You know, it's so cool. It's crazy that the collaboration thing. So when I moved here, of course, I was still doing a lot of hip hop stuff. I played a lot of hip hop shows. Rapping is like something that, one, I was naturally good at. Two, I really enjoyed because, again, it shows the kind of the stretch of my abilities and things like that. But I also thought it was cool to just rap on breakdowns and country songs. So I was doing that on Instagram stories like way back when. Well, then, of course, TikTok always popped off, and I'm like, well, now I feel too late to the ballgame because like all these cats are doing it. Like you see David Morris. I'm like, I was doing it. You know, I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I'm gonna Barry Horowitz this thing and say, look, I was doing it first. Okay, I just want to throw that out there. Me and Nelly were doing it first. Technically, Nelly, I guess, did it first, but. So for me, it's like one of those cool things to still do like rap stuff. So I rap, you know, it's kind of a party trick now, man. My friends are like, oh, I'll do the thing and I'll do it at writers rounds and things like that. Just 'cause it's a little more interesting to see different sides of the artist and see what guys can do and stuff like that. So we'll definitely collab. We're going to make it happen.
It'll happen somehow. All right, before you get to, I know you said you were going to perform the song, correct?
Yeah, man, I'll play a song for y'all.
Before you do that, though, see, we've elevated our game in this
I love it.
podcast. So we do a gun to your head segment, right?
I love it. Let's
and
go.
we ask questions to each, but they have a little wordplay involved. It's not. I know you were on a show on Instagram Live, and the guy asked you like Reese's or Skittles, like what?
Okay. Okay.
Nonsense.
All right. So there's going to be some wordplay involved.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, like it's a little different. Like it's not your typical nonsense. So we do keep score though. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So, I don't. Brian does.
Just me. Just me.
Just Brian.
Scorekeeper, Brian.
No, we actually take this pretty seriously. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, all right.
We kind of have like an ongoing fake tally, and this is very important to us. So we ask 2 questions each. You pick a winner at the end. Your favorite question. So, I will go first. Okay.
All right.
For 1 week, would you rather have to walk backwards or talk in reverse?
Walk backwards.
Okay.
Well, that one sucked.
Brian, you're up.
All right. Would you rather be trapped in catacombs or be obsessed with combing cats? Ooh, that's fucking good.
That is a good one. That is a good one. I'm going to say combing cats.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay. Would you rather quit music and only do karaoke or change your name to karaoke?
I guess I gotta change my name to do karaoke.
You gotta. That's a great stage name.
Team win right here.
All right. So the only holiday you could celebrate is Flag Day, or you have to carry a flag around every day, everywhere you go.
You could have done that so much better. You should have said spend the day as a flag.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
cause he
Well,
could turn
Brian,
into
now we
flag.
know why he doesn't pick the beats. All right, that's not his.
You gotta pick one.
I did. I'm gonna say. Oh my gosh, how big is the flag I gotta carry around?
There's no flag. It's a huge
All right, I'm
flag.
gonna carry around a flag.
Yeah, tough question. I mean,
Yeah, carry around a flag every day.
Yeah, you got to remember that one. Brian?
All right, get ready for your doom. Would you rather never be able to use a microphone or have to hit Mike Rowe with a phone?
I'm going to hit Mike Rowe with a phone all day long.
Damn, Brian got 2 giggles. All right. I don't like this one, but we'll do it. Would you rather people mistake the PJ and PJ North for pajamas or peanut butter jelly? It's so dumb.
Man, I've gotten both, so I'm gonna go with peanut butter jelly.
People call you Pajama North?
Yeah, man, I've got some crazy ones, man.
Actually,
PG, I've got all types of ones, but pajamas and peanut butter jelly. So when I say PJ, sometimes I have to tell people that because they don't listen. Like P also sounds like T, E, D, C, every other letter in the alphabet. So it's like I've got to be like, it's PJ as in like peanut butter and jelly. So
I will say, if you like went the strictly rap route, Pajama North needs to be your rap.
yeah, I mean, maybe I'll drop an album, just Pajama North, hit them with it.
That is so cool.
I like that.
All right, PJ, your favorite question.
My favorite question is.
Don't feel pressured.
Don't feel pressured, Brian.
I gotta go with the catacomb or Cobra Cat.
You know what?
Because I thought that was a great wordplay. I love
It's
it.
a well-deserved,
Now,
well-deserved.
a new thing we started too, just to twist the knife. What's the worst question? We like to shame people on this show.
I know what it is.
It's got to be Flag Day because you just did a poor job wordplay, and I love you, Gambino. But come on, Doug.
You know what? I saved mine for Shark Week, and
Yeah. What do you say?
no, I will say I wrote these today, and I did not feel good about it.
He was, yeah. That's the worst, right? It's a joke that doesn't land.
10 minutes ago.
Brian's like, yeah, that was terrible.
I had more. PJ, I had one. You don't have to. You could answer this just because I want to ask you. I had one. Would you rather have Michigan win a national championship or have a sold-out show in Michigan?
Yeah, sold-out show in Michigan.
No, fuck Michigan, huh? No, I thought you were a
Look,
huge fan.
hey, let me tell you something. We're all self-serving. I watched Michigan win a national title, man, in 97. So for me, it was like, I'll be okay. Basketball's good too. You didn't mention that, so we got a couple sports. That's fine.
Yeah, well, whatever. It's all right. All right, PJ. If you want to play a little song for us.
Yeah, man. I'll play you a little bit of this brand new one here. Whoa.
Holy shit.
Almost, man. Almost, dude. I got this new setup, dude. I'm working on the new podcast setup, so
nice.
I sound clearer.
Yeah, it's perfect, man. It's perfect. This will come out. This episode will come out the day you're releasing this. So
I love that. So
Call
today,
it the pajama cast.
Yeah.
I like that.
if you don't call it the pajama cast, I'm out.
No. Pajama North.
Featuring. See how many views we can get.
All right,
That's
so
hilarious.
this is dropping. This song is out today. Order it now. Go on, man.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, man, this is kind of my thing. And Dawson's not here to help me out, but I'll play a little bit for you guys so you guys get the hang of it, and y'all check it out.
All right.
Rocking that snapback in my Air Jordans, swiping that plastic in places I shouldn't, yeah. I'm gonna without warning, flying by the seat of my pants next morning. I ain't got forever in mind, but if you're looking for a good time, that's kind of my thing. Known to get rowdy, get a little mouthy, and if you're all about it, start with one train, going 12 rounds and gonna burn it down with a shot of fireball that'll spark that flame. Girl, you won't ever be the same, 'cause that's kind of my thing. That's kind of my thing. Just picture Dawson, jaw full of red, man. Wrangler patch up on these jeans. Chevrolet still the only brand. Still think number 3's the king, yeah. If a good old boy's your type, then I might be your kind of guy. That's kind of my thing. We're known to get rowdy, get a little mouthy, and if you're all about it, start with one train, going 12 rounds and maybe burn it down with a shotgun natty that'll spark that flame. Girl, you won't ever be the same, 'cause that's kind of my thing. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Only thing between another night and the life of the party, somebody buying you another drink. Meet me in that somebody. That's kind of my thing. Been known to get rowdy, get a little mouthy, and if you're all about it, start with one train, going 12 rounds, ain't gonna burn it down with a shot of fireball that'll spark that flame. Girl, you won't ever be the same, 'cause that's kind of my thing. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Kind of my thing. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. Yeah, man.
All right, man.
I'm gonna pre-order that.
I appreciate y'all, man.
Nah,
It's a
man.
good time, dude.
That's a good song. It makes me like annoyed I never learned the guitar.
Hey, man. Look, dude. It's so funny. I don't really know the guitar that well, man. I've started to learn. I spent a lot of 2020 like doing. There's a Nashville number system, which is basically 1 through 7, and like they'll be like, oh, we play this in A, and the numbers are 6 4 1 5, and you're like, okay, what does that mean? So I had to like learn the number system, and I've learned like 4 of the keys basically in the different shapes because it's all so much going on. But I don't play enough live with a full, like I play writers rounds, but I break it down into like simplified things and things like that. So
I could say like just seeing you perform, I can understand why like country out there like I would see that live. I'd see you live.
Right, you'd be like, oh man, it's lit. I appreciate that.
I grew up on rap and whatnot, but like I love the rhyme scheme of country. It's just
I think there's a lot of different cool stuff that happens, man. I think a lot of people, if they listen to Jordan Davis, they'd be like, Jordan Davis loves rap music, but he grew up in Louisiana, so he had to be a country artist. That's what they would like say. Like melodically and like things that he's doing, you're like, all right. He's got like one of his lines in his song is like, I remember you, Patagonia sweatshirt, but it sounds like paddock on your sweatshirt. Like the way he said, you're just like, damn, that's a vibe. You're like, that's a vibe. I'm like, damn, all right. So we're all just trying to catch up.
I feel like a lot of like country songs, at least I've listened to, it's like rhyme A, rhyme B, rhyme B, rhyme A, and it just kind of keeps that. Like it's just like there's a bunch of different rhymes within the breakdown of the song.
Yeah, that's one of the things we do in rights, man. It's like, all right, what rhyme structure do we want to use? Like sometimes we'll do like A B, and then like C B. Like go back, it just like depends. Which is a cool part about the difference. Like that's the one also thing you mentioned. I did forget to mention this. Writing between hip hop and writing this music is. I never wrote a hip hop song with somebody else. I wrote features, but like I don't write like nobody's coming in here and telling me how to rap. That's just not happening. Yeah. It's not ever. I've had people be like, "Man, let's feature you," and I'm like, "Well, you can't write on it. I'll do it, and I'll gladly do the rap thing. I'll do the thing, but you can't write it." It's like one of those things. So like that's the other difference is like here there's multiple minds conglomerating on, and I never until you saw like Spotify credits. Did anybody really ever think that like multiple people wrote a lot of those hip hop songs that we listen to? But you know what I mean? Like you hear that. And so that's a big difference too. But man, thank y'all for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Cool, man. Thanks for playing the song, man. You were
always, man.
Brother.
Hey, I look, what's that Soulja Boy and Sway Lee thing going on right now? It's like, who's the first? I'm the first everything. Soulja Boy, find me, dog. What's really good, baby? You holla at me.
I think you and Soulja Boy on a track would be very unique.
If that ever happens, shoot me, because that means I've made a lot of career decisions that were just incorrect.
You don't want to start saying PJ North, tell him.
It's so funny. We were doing I'll tell you since the song's out when this comes out. There's a lot in the thing. I love ad libs. Man, that's one of my favorite things about hip hop is the ad libs. Yeah. I don't love as much now because it's always like or whatever, something weird. But there's a lot of cool ones in hip hop, and that started in hip hop. Like that's like a hip hop thing. So for me, we're always doing these ad libs, and I was like in the booth doing the vocal track, and I was like, "That's kind of my thing." Tell them about it, D. And like in my mind, I was like, "This sounds so cool." My friend's like, "We're keeping it. Put it in this song. Drop it."